Yes, it's the netherworld, but I was not expecting Cthulhu to make an appearance. It's giving emo. It's giving goth. Look, 2025 has started off strong. We had some really fantastic horror book releases just within the first month of the year. Today I have 3 different books I want to talk about that are all new releases, and because I know that you're curious, it is cold. We're coming in hot with the tea. So because I know you're dying to know, today's flavor is blueberry muffin. Also decaf, because I go to bed soon. First up, we have Metamorphosis by Ross Jeffrey. I just happened to stumble upon this. I had never heard of this author before, but I saw this cover and I was immediately enraptured. I just thought the cover was gorgeous. And I wanted to read it even before I knew what it was about. But the book is just as beautiful as the cover. This was, oh my goodness, this was quite the experience. Okay, so we have our main character, Cynthia. At first, all we know about Cynthia is that she runs an OnlyFans page. This is her source of income, but she doesn't portray her true self through her OnlyFans. She kind of puts on a bit of an alter ego, conceals aspects of her real appearance. She wears a wig, she wears contacts, and also it's insinuated in the book that she doesn't actually show straight up nudity or actual sex work at all. She streams, which I didn't even know you could stream on OnlyFans. I thought it was just pictures and videos, but apparently you can stream. She just sort of streams and will model lingerie and kind of tease people, but she doesn't ever actually give that much away. I don't know much about OnlyFans. It seems like a rather oversaturated market, and so it would surprise me that somebody could make a living without actually flashing the goods, you know what I mean? But what the hell do I know? Apparently she's very good at what she does. So people are willing to pay just to get as much as they can get, I guess. That very quickly becomes background noise. Just the fact that she has one was a catalyst for certain events to take place. You find out that the love of her life, Daniel, had passed away previously, and through a series of events, she is going to try to bring Daniel back to her. I feel like this is the type of book where you don't want to know too much going in. Such a fascinating exploration of grief. There was a specific date that she was supposed to have with him before he passed away, and she cannot let go of this date that she didn't get to have. So her idea is she wants to bring him back so they can have their date. I've never read this author before. He really knows how to pull on your heartstrings, though. One minute you're disturbed, and then you're angry, and then you're annoyed, and then you're just devastated, and you're uncomfortable. The emotions are so potent reading this book, but the cornerstone, is the grief. That as insane as this woman is behaving and all the crazy things that are happening, at the heart of it is heartbreak and just not being able to let your person go. The ending of this book made me cry, like ugly cry. It really hit me. There's this melancholy and sadness that permeates through the whole thing, and your brain is this constant battle of sympathy and disgust. Anytime you start to lose sympathy for the main character, it's really her desperation, I think, that really pulls you back. And it makes a very big distinction between her online persona and who she really is. The person that she was for Daniel and with Daniel. What she experiences, the loss of the man in her life who saw Cynthia, who wanted and desired and loved Cynthia, not the online persona, right? For people who have lost somebody close to you, you'll probably relate to certain aspects of the story. She talks about how little things like seeing his handwriting on the calendar breaks her. Things like that can just hit you unexpectedly. You know, one time I made a new cookie, and it was a cookie I had never made before, and it made me think of my grandma because she had such a sweet tooth, and I kept thinking how much she would like this cookie. Things like that. It's just, the grief, it was just beautiful. It was beautiful and I absolutely loved it. Next up, we have At Dark, I Become Loathsome by LaRocca. This is another author that I have never read before, but I have heard of him. I did listen to the audio version of this. It was narrated by Andrew Eden. This was another, all of these were so good. Another stunning cover. Absolutely gorgeous. You look at that and immediately it sets the tone of the book itself. The phrase, "At dark I become loathsome," is a bit of a mantra that our main character is repeating. Our main character is named Ashley, and he is a man who has lost his wife to cancer and also lost his son because after his wife died, he was out with his son, who was 9, I think, and had to run back into the store, told him just to wait there. And when he came back out, his son was gone. Reason to believe that he was abducted. Enough time has passed that it's not looking good, but they have not actually found a body. He's already a little bit unstable just after the death of his wife. His emotional response to these things happening is that he wants people to stay away from him. And so he starts to get his face just completely submerged in piercings. Like he's trying to make himself look scary to try to keep other people away from him. He is suffering from such a lack of purpose, being too scared to end things, but wishing he could, seeing no meaning or purpose in being here anymore. And so he kind of starts up this underground business where he will meet people who feel the same way he does, who don't really want to die, but don't really want to live either. And he will literally bury them alive for half an hour and then dig them up. And the idea behind it is that he is giving them a new lease on life. We're getting into a lot of grief again. This is very character driven. If you really need your books to be centered on the plot more so than the characters, then I would say this one probably isn't for you. It's a lot of just his inner dialogue, his thoughts on life and death and the meaning of life, about why he does what he does. This mantra that he's repeating, "At dark I become loathsome," kind of the distinction between his true self at night versus the facade he puts on during the day. There is a lot more to this story regarding his character and his inner struggles with his own identity, his feelings of regret and shame regarding certain aspects of his relationship with his son. It really does come full circle. It's such an exercise in projection. So much of what he feels himself, he's projects onto these people trying to acquire his services. There are some stories within the story. There'll be a character telling a story or something that are absolutely repugnant, disgusting, repulsive, just so like ugh, fucked up, honestly. There's a very dark, kind of macabre, goth tone to this whole book. The narrator, his voice fit the tone of the book really well, but there's a line in the book that says, "Oh, sometimes I get mistaken for a woman," but it's the narrator's voice is very clearly not a woman. So it fit the tone of the book, but it didn't fit the description of the character. I thought the ending was poetic and fitting and satisfying. The book itself is very depressing. We're comparing these two books that both deal with grief. Both of them have this sort of combative energy between sinister, evil intentions and sensitivity and vulnerability and sadness. But this overall has a much more gritty I guess. It has a grittier feel to it. It's certainly more vulgar. There is an element within this book about enjoying the suffering of others. And it's a theme that you see in throughout different aspects of the book and different subplots and whatnot. This one has a little bit more rawness. I also loved this. Okay, and last but not least, we have The Home by Judith Sonnet. Okay, now this one again, just, oh my god, my heart was just ripped out. I was not anticipating. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's start from the beginning. So, the home jumps back and forth in time. It's a little bit It vibes. I have not read that book, but I did see the movie, in the sense that you have this incident that occurs when these kids are young, and then when they're older, they have to come back to fight the evil that they saw when they were young, that sort of thing. Okay. We have our three main characters, Griffin, Orville, and Eunice. We're jumping back and forth in time between when they were younger and now when they are elderly, retired and elderly. Back when these guys were teenagers, back in 1961, there is an urban legend in their town about a monster called Mr. Friendlyman, or as I like to call him, Mr. F. The legend of Mr. F has gotten a little convoluted over time. He's associated with these deaths that happened in this specific house. One of those places where there's been a suspicious number of deaths over the years. A lot of people don't actually believe in Mr. Friendlyman, you know, like Bloody Mary. It's not something they really take seriously, but it's something where, oh, I dare you to go throw a rock at the window of the house or whatever. One thing leads to another, and Griffin, Orville, and Eunice, and some other people, they all end up in the home at the same time. And they experience something so impactful, so traumatizing, that it really does bond them for life. They do end up going their own ways, but because they shared in this intense experience in the home, there's still a bond there. Even though that happened when they were teenagers and now they are 70s, 80s, retirement age, it turns out that Mr. F is an imposing threat once again. And so the three of them feel the need to bind together to try to see if they can defeat Mr. Friendly. There were so many aspects of this book that I absolutely adored. I think it's such a common thing to see stories that have a little boy protagonist, especially like a kid who has to somehow find the courage within to be the hero of the story, right? But it's much less common to actually see an elderly person having to overcome all the challenges that come with advanced age, not being as nimble and having a harder time physically keeping up, having to overcome memory lapses, having to overcome these challenges in order to save the day. You really don't see elderly protagonists that much. And so that was very nice. I enjoyed that a lot. And seeing them come together, it was so, oh my gosh, jumping back and forth in time between current day as elderly people and then looking back on their youth, on their memories together. And there were moments in this book that are so just, they're so tender and fragile. Things that happen, it just rips your heart out. I was devastated. I was so emotionally invested in one of these characters in particular, but I will not tell you. I will not tell you which one. No, I will. Orville. I am upset. I'm upset. I was so locked in with this book. I was locked in. I was there. I was invested. These tender, pure, gentle, beautiful moments. And then just something disgusting, very strong, vivid, surreal imagery that I just loved. I loved the imagery in this book. That confusing foggy headspace elements to it at times that I really like. The atmosphere was so effective. It was so just at all times slightly off. At all times, you are aware that something, you don't know what, but something ain't quite right. They get to this point where they're trying to band together, but it becomes unclear if they can actually trust one another. You're right there with them, like, I don't know, bud. Oh, should I trust him? I don't know. I don't know if you should. I don't know. There is a lot going on. It's meant to be very chaotic at times. They've lived a full life, and yet there is still this need to confront the demons from their past. No matter how much time passes or how much you ignore it, those things simply do not go away on their own. The nostalgia of the way you look back on the past and at times having to confront that things were not as they seemed, or that certain things meant more to you than they meant to someone else. Is ignorance bliss? Or is it better to know? After I finished this book, I was just reeling. Oh my gosh. Honestly, now that I think about it, even the home has a bit of a theme surrounding grief. Not just with the death of loved ones per se, but mourning childhood, mourning innocence, and then you get to those really late stages of life, and at some point you know your time is limited. Your memories are probably just never more precious to you, and to have those taken away or perverted or like, oh, this was kind of different than the other stuff that I personally have read from Judith. I really liked it. All three of these books were so good. I recommend all of them. All of them. Read all of them. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And maybe I'll see you the next time around. Bye.